and the women of the territory who come up and
could add to our cause. But first, we sort of need to do him a favor. Is that right?
yeah, so obviously these people have been run down by Rued and the impact he's had on the territory, so I think a lot of these people have sort of lost hope. And so you need to show them that there is hope. And so here Eivor is basically helping them take back one of their prized locations by taking a couple men and raiding a nearby township, basically taking it back for the people and showing that there's a reason to continue fighting and then get them on your side. When Eivor does this, obviously you have access to a full suite of abilities. So again, the improvements that we've done to the fight system, you have some brutal axe throwing in there. You have archery or like range combat abilities in there as well. So really, again, like depending on what your playstyle is, you can customize your loadout and go in there how you wish.
Fizz, we just saw this giant pulse go out. What exactly was that?
So that is what we call the Odin sight. The Odin sight is basically our interpretation of the eagle vision from previous games, and we thought it was good to sort of bring that back. It's basically Eivor's intuition. It's how she perceives the world. When player uses that, it'll highlight basically interactive objects, like things that will bring her an advantage. So we'll have arrows, like health consumables that are in there. So it really is like a good way of sort of understanding the world and showing you like things that you can go and touch.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of things we can touch, we just picked up this awesome new weapon.
It's something we wanted to play with on Assassin's Creed Valhalla, where we have fewer weapons in the game, but you can invest in them more, so they become your weapon. And so depending what your preferred playstyle is or your preferred weapon type, then you can go and choose, I'm gonna fight with this weapon and invest heavily into that.
Not only are we looting weapons, but we see something here called the Book of Knowledge. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
They unlock skills for the player. So here you can see the Valkyrie dive that has just been unlocked. We have these spread out throughout the world, so again, to promote exploration and discovery. As you travel through the world and you explore locations, you can find these books that will add abilities that you can go and invest in, put into your loadout, then go into the different locations or the different quests in the game and use those depending on what your playstyle is.
Now we've recaptured this village, we've secured more troops for our assault. Let's jump back now and figure out what we want to do with Rued.
The rightful king of East Anglia has spared your life today, and so it will be.
Compassion is a virtue suited for anyone, Eivor, including you. Thank you.
Eivor decided to let him live. Rued is really angry about that. Being a Norse Viking, being put to the death in battle is your road to Valhalla, so he was basically denied access to Valhalla in this situation. Obviously, all of these decisions come into play later on in the game, so we have very difficult decisions for the player to make. We didn't want to have easy decisions.
Yeah, you know, when I was playing, I decided to listen to Oswald and spare Rued's life, but what exactly is the relationship like between Eivor and Oswald?
So the relationship between Eivor and Oswald is an alliance. It's basically Eivor is surrounded by territories that initially getting into England are hostile towards her, and obviously if you want to set up a new settlement, you want to make sure that your neighbor is friendly. So here in East Anglia, Oswald is the man for the job, where putting him into a position of power would help her sort of secure her territory. So earlier on to the territory, Eivor comes in here, meets Oswald. The problems he had with Rued are sort of put to light, and going through the arc, you basically help him deal with Rued and aligning basically Danes with Saxons in one territory.
So, Fizz, we've completed the assault. We've gotten our hands dirty with some combat, taken down Ruid. We have this big open region of East Anglia, so before we head off to Oswald's wedding, what do you say we head out, have some fun, and see what we can get into in the open world?
That sounds great.
So we see a cat here with a speech bubble above it, and you best believe if you let me talk to a cat, I'm gonna talk to a cat.
Yeah, these are some of our some of my favorite moments actually in the game, where we put out a whole bunch of events throughout the territory. And it sort of rewards, again, exploration, going around. It's a chance for us also to sort of showcase a different side of Eivor. A lot of the quests sort of deal more with like politics and warfare, and this shows a slightly more human nature to her. So it permits us to explore that character a little bit more. And so here, basically, like you're trying to help a kid with his cat, and ultimately get that cat to sort of join your crew as a cat raider.
You just said cat raider way too casually. You're telling me I could have a cat Viking raider on my longship?
That's exactly what I'm telling you.
Oh my god, yes, I love it. Perfect.
So yeah, as you're riding around the rivers of England, you would see a cat basically walking around your longship, keeping your Viking raiders company.
You know, speaking of the Viking longship, we're seeing some of that gameplay here now. Can you talk a little bit about how that works and functions in Valhalla?
Yeah, so starting out on this project, I think the Viking longship is one of the biggest images that we all have when we think about Vikings in our game. And so Vikings had this awesome design for longship that had a very shallow hull, so it permitted them to go very far inland very quickly, and you could basically disembark Viking raiders like on pretty much any shore. We added that into the game where you can basically sail up to any location and then just decide to disembark with your guys and raid a location, loot all its treasure, get back in the ship, and then continue sailing down the river to your next opportunity.
So I know past Assassin's Creed games allowed for songs and things like that to be sung on ships. Will Valhalla have a similar version of that?
Yeah, so this is something we actually wanted the crew of your ship to become like your home away from home. So we added stories and songs into the ship. So basically, as the player is going around, you could decide to have your skald sort of sing a song for you as you row down the river, but you can also decide, depending on who the raiders are in your ship, to hear more about their life, so you can actually queue up stories and they'll give you a little bit more background on who they are, so you get to know your sort of fighters as you're traveling around the world, which is a cool moment.
So here we're seeing a bit of a different view. What exactly are we looking at?
We had this on previous Assassins, where you would like ride on your horse and you could pull out, have the horse sort of follow the track. We have a similar thing for the ship, where you can put up your sails. It's cruise control for the ship, so you can pull back, take in the scenery, listen to some songs or some stories, and just take it all in.
So, you know, speaking of Viking songs, we have an activity here that's not exactly singing, but kind of related, right?
Yeah, so here what we have is what we call flighting, which was an activity that Norse people would partake in. They would like to have a battle of wits and sort of poetry, where insults would be thrown back and forth between each other. The idea was to try and have a good insult, but also to have a good rhythm and a good rhyme in there. So it's basically a precursor to rap battles.
Here's the silver. Now begin.
To all those whom I speak, they say Eivor's a clod.
Then you're speaking to fools and their knowledge is flawed.
Well,
How exactly do you go about being successful in one of these?
The trick behind a good flight was to choose the right insult, identifying the right cadence, and then trying to find what rhymed the best.
I'm known for my might.
interesting. Silent whispers all claim that you're terribly dense.
Then you've clearly misheard them. My wit is immense.
Oh, you looked out with that one. Well, what a surprise. Eivor of the Raven Clan is a true talent. I'm shocked.
Don't believe everything you hear, unless it touches on my flighting. Then heed every word.
Take the coin.
So now that we've proven our sharp tongue and wit, I think it's time for a bit more relaxing activity, so we're fishing here.
Yeah, that's it. So we gave Eivor a fishing line, so you can actually throw out a line and go catch some fish. This is used basically to play into our new health loop, where the player will lose health in the world, and it doesn't automatically regenerate like we would have in the past. So you actually have to go out and get some supplies. So you'll find mushrooms and some food that you can gather. But here, like you can also catch some fish and consume that to regain some health. We also will sometimes have it in certain quests. So it's a good way to sort of chill out on the side of the water and just, again, take it all in. So this is what we call one of our offering altars. So the idea is that you find these around the world and you make offerings to it. So it'll take like animal parts and stuff that you can find throughout the world. Here what you're seeing though is sort of like a fancy version of it, where as you do your offering you get interrupted by some kids that basically come and steal your stuff. So it's just a way for us to sort of showcase that like the systems and the activities in the world can sort of play in with some quests and some little events. So it's our way to sort of dress up these moments and make it all fit inside the whole experience.
Yeah, this seemed like a really sort of unexpected turn for what I thought was going to be kind of a simple interaction.
Yeah, and it's really what we were trying to do with these events is to give another dimension to Eivor, other than just, you know, the pure rar Viking or the politician. Because you can imagine at some point that will grow old if you're always telling that version of the character. So it lets us really go into the depth of who is Eivor, what motivates her, how she can interact with the world outside of warfare and politics.
But your stealth needs work.
We were close.
And it also showcases like a different facet of the world at the same time. It's not only Eivor. So it just widens the breadth of the stories that we can tell.
So who exactly are these two children?
These are kids of East Anglia. They are going through tough times with whatever Rued's been doing to the territory. And so they're just here trying to survive and basically exploit the people that are there to make offerings.
It was kind of nice to see that Eivor wasn't really necessarily upset at them for stealing, and, you know, after you talk to them, you have the choice of helping them. You can, you know, give them food, give them some money, or, you know, maybe just say, hey, good luck, on your way.
Yeah, and this is something we also wanted to do a lot. Like, so here we're doing an event, we do it in quests as well, but we want to give a lot of this agency into players' hands so that they can sort of shape Eivor a little bit. Who she is, so it represents them a little bit more, and they can roleplay that a little bit better. And again, it just gives her like a little bit more humanity in these moments.
What large walkers should do. Provide for small walkers.
Here, large walker.
A necklace.
Yes, it's a St. Martin seal. You're welcome here anytime, large walker. You're one of us now. Visit us, okay?
I will. Take care now, small green walkers.
So I think AC veterans might recognize this here, but what exactly is Eivor chasing down?
Yeah, so here you're seeing Eivor running down one of our tattoo images. So this is challenging the player on free run abilities, but also for fans of the series, sort of pulling at their heartstrings for some beloved features.
So are we going to be able to tattoo Eivor?
Yes, by collecting these tattoos, you actually bring them back to your settlement, and then you can customize different body parts, having different tattoos everywhere. So again, another form of expression, and sort of to represent that Viking culture.
Fizz, one of my favorite things when I was just out there exploring East Anglia was coming upon a house or a building and realizing that there was a chest inside, but that there was no easy way in. And in this case, I saw all the doors were barred, but I knew that because there was a chest in there, there must have been some way to get inside. So I went around the back and, you know, found a way in.
Yeah, I'm glad you actually caught on to that. You're pointing at something that we wanted to work on a lot on Valhalla, where we wanted the exploration to make you feel smarter. So we played a lot with puzzle solving, so making sure that every house that you find sort of appeals to you, like it draws your attention, and then when you want to come and explore, it's not given to you. You still have to work for it a little bit, so it'll challenge you on your observation skills, logic, just trying to find how do I get into this. So we play a lot with level design, quest design to offer challenges to players, and you basically come out of it like with a better feeling for the exploration, but you also get to see more of a story behind any of these locations which we've crafted. So it gave us a little bit more time to sort of slow down the experience and tell a different version of a story.
A poor victim of someone's fury.
Yeah, I mean, speaking about exploration and just finding things out in the world, I was just wandering and came across this clearing and found this kind of morbid altar.
Yeah, so this is one of our bigger events that we have scattered in the world. So as Eivor explores, she can find altars like this, and by interacting with them, here it's a trap that's been set by this character named Regan. Now, there's a bigger story behind all this. There's multiple steps to it later on. So this is one of the moments. It permits us to go into a slightly more mystical realm and play with a boss fight that has more magical abilities, if we will. And basically have this awesome boss fight in the middle of the swamps. And so here the abilities that you see Regan using are a little bit on the mystical side of things. What's happening is Eivor at the beginning of that trap is poison, and so she starts sort of hallucinating, seeing the world in a sort of different light and filter. And so that's sort of what lets us go into the realm of the weird.
My rage, spirit of my father's rage, fill me!
Enough is crackling in the chapter. Arrest your demons.
So we just saw here that Regan belongs to something called the Daughters of Lyrium.
Yeah, that's correct. By finding the other daughters, you'll get a little bit more backstory on who they are, so we don't want to spoil that too much. But it creates like a sort of greater story that is not on the main path in any way, but it's still very rich and adds to the lore of this world and actually plays into history.
So we just had a really exciting, really intense boss battle. I think it's time for something a little bit more relaxing and calming now.
Yeah, it's all about pacing yourself with the highs and the lows. So here we have a low chill moment of what we call building a cairn. So Eivor, as she explores the world, will find these sort of meditative areas where you have a pile of rocks that you could just stack on top of one another using physics. And I mean, yeah, the ultimate goal is to try and get the highest pile of rocks, but really it's about taking in the sights, relaxing, taking a step back, and just building something.
Together we stack stones into cairns.
These?
Yes. Think of this as a test of mind and wit. Stack the cairn stones high and wide into any shape you like.
I mean, you can spend as much time as you want building these things, making them as high as you want, as weird as you want. I'm sure like a lot of these stuff will end up on the internet, like people comparing structures. And the cool thing is that once you've built it and you decide to get out of it, it sort of stays there. And so that's yours, right? And until the moment where you come back and you want to build a new one, it's sort of cool that we were able to give that to players to express themselves.
At this point in the demo, we've explored East Anglia. We've met some children, we've broken into a house, we fought a boss, we built a Cairn. I think now it's finally time to go and head off to Oswald's wedding.
Yeah, so this is the moment it's all been building up to. By the moment you get into the territory, it's sort of like mentioned by Oswald that he's trying to get married with his Dane lady. And so as you go through the arc, that's sort of like the underlying thread. Really, it's about Rued creating turmoil in the territory and helping Oswald sort of get above that and show that he's a good leader. And so you finally, after going through all of that arc, finally get these two together, go through their wedding, and you're invited to attend the ceremony. And then all the activities and fun times that comes afterwards.
Yeah, as much as we've seen the brutal side of England, it's nice to see the joyous side of it as well.
Yeah, and it's something we really wanted to play on in Valhalla, where being a Viking is not only about being a raider or a warrior. I mean, there's revelry, there's feasting, there's partying that goes, and like if someone knows how to party, it's a Viking. And so here, this is one of our opportunities to sort of show what a sort of Viking gathering is. And what's cool here is it's a good alliance of Norse culture with Saxon culture, sort of smashing those two things together and building bridges.
Yeah, I mean, what's a wedding without some drunk archery, right?
Yeah, so like, anything can happen in a Viking event, right? Eivor, yeah, here, just get drunk, shoot some arrows.
Barely a challenge.
Steady all, and ready yourself for the wedding race. The king and his bride against all!
My king! He...
So here we see the decision I made to spare Rued came back to bite us.
Yep, that's the decision you made, coming back. So as we said before, all of your decisions have consequences, and this is a big one.
I challenge you.
I accept.
You're basically presented with the option to sort of step in for Oswald, fight the fight for him, or let him go and fight his own fight.
Yeah, personally, I chose to fight myself because I thought Eivor is the type of person who likes to finish what she started.
Plank by plank, and a dead king cannot keep his oaths. Let me finish this.
Oswald, you gutless Arya swine! I'll slay the wolf-kissed, then hang you with your own tongue.
How does this encounter with Rued differ from our previous fight with him?
So at this point, you've eliminated his wolf, so it's just him. And so he's angry at this point, and so he will start using his big gun abilities like fairly earlier on in the fight. So it's way more vicious, way faster. There's less strategy. He goes literally swords blazing at you. And so this is a fight to the death. And of course here, like, this is a decision you made to go and fight him, but there's multiple outcomes to this scenario. You could have let Oswald fight his own fight and prove basically his station as the rightful leader. If you had eliminated Rued, obviously this would not have happened. It would have been a slightly more joyous occasion. But ultimately, in all scenarios, you still have an alliance with Oswald. He's proven to be the right leader for this territory, and to be a good ally for you.
A great service. I promised you an alliance, and now you have it.
And one day I will need you to make good on that alliance.
So we're about to take off from the wedding, but Eivor decides it's a good idea to check up on her friend Finner.
Yeah, so Finner is probably one of the more recurring characters in this arc. You get to meet him very early on. He's a very endearing character, sort of used to have a Viking life, sort of misses it, and going through all these adventures together is sort of like lights that fire back, and so he's willing to join you in your raiders. So he's one of many raiders that you'll encounter in the game, and you can sort of recruit, bring back home, and then have them sort of join you on your adventures on Longship. He can tell you these stories that we're telling you about. You get to know a little bit more about him. So again, it's a fun way to sort of discover more about these characters that you meet and bring them along for adventures.
Together, I'll gather my things.
Well, folks, we've come to the end of our Assassin's Creed Valhalla playthrough. Fizz, thank you so much for joining us. When and where can people play it?
Assassin's Creed Valhalla will be out on Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5, and is coming to Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, and Stadia on November 17th.
Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. My name is Eric Pope. I'm the Senior Community Developer on Hyperscape.
And I'm Graham Jennings. I'm the Senior Producer on Hyperscape. Hyperscape's now in its open beta phase, so you can go to Uplay and download it directly.
So a little while back, we recorded a match for you so we could walk through it moment to moment, explain what's going on throughout a match of Hyperscape. There's a lot going on with hacks, guns, the gameplay. So Graham and I are going to walk you through it right now, and I hope you'll enjoy it.
So at the start now, you'll see the insertion phase. There's the three of them in the squad, so they're trying to decide on where they want to go. It looks like Helios, which is one of the landmarks, is going to be one of the choices.
So all the places we're seeing on the map right now with like a name above it, that tends to be a higher loot area, would you say?
For one of the big yellow letter ones like this one, this is one of the landmarks. Landmarks tend to have higher density and higher quality loot overall.
Which also means most people will be going there, so you might have...
Usually have a few more friends if you go to a landmark. So in this case though, he's gone outside and he's found a supply crate. So he's starting to loot these instead, so he's looking for both hacks and weapons.
Right, so the looting phase, many folks will be familiar with, but in Hyperscape you do have those supply crates that you may be lucky enough to find. And what's the deal with supply crates?
So supply crates are placed around the world, so you'll hear them and then you can go and find them, and then inside them you'll find weapons and hacks. Usually you find slightly better weapons and hacks within them. Here now we've switched, so we're looking at Chimera instead. So he's in the landmark, he's in Helios now, and he's still in the looting phase. But as you can see from the red triangle up there, there's actually some friends, or not friends, in there with him just now.
Yeah, so the action gets started, okay, right here.
Yeah, so he's one-on-one, he's going with the Mammoth shotgun against someone who's using the heal hack at the minute, which is the red circle you can see. So that player's taking extra health at that point.
Which looks like it helped him hold his ground against that mammoth.
And I believe it helped him survive at that point. There seems to be a few other players in here just now, so the combat started and then eliminations got his first kill.
Sectors will soon be collapsed.
Oh no, so he's just been eliminated actually.
Yeah.
So he just, he's been eliminated and he's turned into an echo now. So he's going to wait for his friends to bring him back. So he's going to go to one of these restore points, which are basically places where someone else from another squad has been eliminated, and you can be restored and brought back to life at one of those points.
So the action pretty much never stops in the game. If you're eliminated, you're not out.
You're not stuck watching a camera with someone else. You're still playing, you can inform your squad as to what's going on, and then you can call to be restored at one of those points. There's plenty of people, like you said, who ended up at Helios at the end. There's at least 3 other squads.
So we can also see when you have a teammate who needs a revive, it's called out on your...
Yeah, the green icon you can see at the side is him calling for a revive at this point. So Mr. Gomi's busy eliminating other players, which will cause more revive points to appear as well. This guy's low on health, so I don't think he's going to last long.
Okay, so I see once someone's eliminated, they drop a revive point that you can use.
What you'll actually see at the minute now is both Chimera and Elimination are both echoes, so it's just Mr. Gomi by himself at the present time. So can he survive this and get He's going again. There's still a few other players in here, that's for sure. So that was the slam hack he used there. So basically he projected himself up in the air, he landed, he dealt some damage, and he's managed to eliminate the other player.
Yeah, he got the elimination with it, which is pretty good.
And then he's starting to bring back Chimera at this point, so he's now back into the game.
Right.
So he's got to reloot and find new weapons again, because when you are eliminated, you go back to just your melee weapon.
Okay, so you don't hold on to your gear when you get eliminated.
No. So this is the start of the decay you can see. So you see all these blue triangles that are appearing. This is how we basically do, map size reduction and zone reduction to bring players towards a smaller map into the center. So instead of having a circle that shrinks, we've decided to actually dissolve the map.
And is it kind of the same? Will you always know which districts are decaying first?
You can see from the map when you bring it up what's going, and you'll also see the icon when you turn on the left-hand side of the screen a second ago, which shows you where the safe area to go is. So at the top it will show you sector is closing, and then you've got the little icon of the person running with a distance against it. That tells you where to go to the next safe place.
So I see Mr. Gummy has pinged that spot to sort of regroup outside of the landmark.
They're going to take some height as well to start to be able to look for other players and to keep themselves a little bit safe. So he's seen another player, so he's starting to throw salvos at him, and probably the Skybreaker too. You see the red exclamation mark? That's basically his teammates pinging and saying, hey, there's an enemy over here. And he's been shot out from behind, so there's definitely players around. You'll see him going to go high again to try and take some positional advantage to get up, because he knows there's another team on the roof up there. He doesn't want to be below them, especially not with his salvo grenade.
Well, what I'm noticing is that they're doing a good job of switching from street level to the rooftops. Is that kind of a good way to approach a game of Hyperscape, to not just stay in one area?
You should really use the variety between streets, interiors, and rooftops for navigation and to keep yourself safe. Rooftops are great to see what's going on, but you're also then a target to snipe. So you really need to adjust height and interior and exterior as you go, just to keep yourself safe. And to aggressively loot too, to find the best stuff.
So he just picked up a golden Skybreaker. What does the gold mean?
That is the top tier of Skybreaker. So basically, you can have a level 5 Skybreaker, which is what he just picked up. We will fusion weapons together. So if you have a Skybreaker and you find another Skybreaker, it will go to level 2. Find another one, it will go to level 3. And what he has now, as you can see in the bottom bar there with the yellow, he has the top tier of the Skybreaker, so this does more damage. So each time you fusion something, a weapon or a hack, it will go up in various different abilities.
So you're basically, just to loot up, to fuse up, you just need to find a duplicate of your weapon or hack, and that's all you need.
Yeah. So you'll see though on the left, when you see the other players' names, you can see that Mr. Gomi has 2 yellow weapons and a yellow hack. So he has 2 fully fused weapons and 1 fully fused hack.
And how does healing work in this game?
So healing will either work by I took damage and then I retreated and your health bar will come back up, or if a player has a heal hack, which he actually does at present time, so you'll see that in the bottom it says heal, he can throw that on the ground and then there'll be an AoE of heal, so both you and your teammates can come into it and it will heal you.
And enemies cannot heal up in that same AoE?
They can't heal up in your AoE, but they could also use the heal hack themselves if they wish.
Cool.
So you see them now, they're starting to hunt again. I guess I've heard some other players, because you can see them starting to move around, and there's a sense that they're not alone at this point. And there's a ping for an enemy, so yeah, the combat started again. So this guy finds himself in the middle of a bunch of the 3 players, so he's not in the best spot just now. And yeah, that's the end of it. So if you manage to fusion one of his hacks then again. So here you'll see the decay started. The player found himself out in the decay as it was starting. He had no cover left, so you find yourself out in the open, and they eliminated him with a Ripper at that point. And another one down for elimination. He seems to be on a roll at this point.
And now he's fully fused his sniper rifle, the Protocol V.
Still quick check, just make sure there's no one else coming in. You don't want to have someone behind you at the last minute.
5 squads.
So there's still 5 teams left. And then we'll swap back to Mr. Gomi, who's still rolling with the Skybreaker at this point.
It's worked out well for him.
Yeah. The decay's starting to happen in this region too, so we're starting to move forward a little bit. They have a nice variety of weapons between them. You know, someone's got a salvo, there's a Skybreaker, there's a Ripper. They really split in terms of hacks and weapons, so they have a nice diverse selection in terms of game style. So you see him go up high now, he's probably going to use the Skybreaker. And he has, and that's the end for Takeshi casually.
Keshi Casualing, so now you mentioned that username. You'll notice if you've been watching the feed, the usernames all seem pretty similar in this match. What's the story with that?
So this is the feature we call streamer protection. So it allows you to anonymize who's in the game. So this is basically what you know. This poor player has managed to find themselves in the corner and tried to hide. Unfortunately, they've been chased in there by someone with a fully fused salvo. So that was kind of the end for them.
Dangerous.
So they've swapped now and they've gone to the Mammoth instead. So they've swapped out the shotgun. So it's quick to change your playstyle. You can easily find another weapon you like and you can adjust based on map size, how many players are left, and continuously adjust.
And that countdown that just finished was a health kit event. What does that mean? What are these events that
So
are
basically in the top right now you'll see the cross and it's kind of ticking down. So this is said that this is the time left for the health kit event. Basically every match there will be cards played which change what happens in the match. So this was the health kit event. There's things like low gravity 2 which projects up in the air and you can jump from.
And are these just random, or are players triggering these events somehow?
So there's two different ways this happens. So there's a game master, Grace, who plays them in this case. Or if there's a streamer in the game, the streamer's viewers will get the chance to vote for which one they want to see. So it'll pop up, there'll be 3 different options, and then whichever gets the highest number of votes will be the one that's played in the game. So viewers are directly impacting the streamers.
That's through the Crowncast extension.
Through the Crowncast Twitch extension.
Cool.
So here you see that you got caught in the decay then and fell through the building, so trying to move back in. There's only 3 teams left now, so we're starting to get towards a smaller map size, so it's going to become chaotic shortly. And they're just on the edge of this landmark of Red Tiger, so they're heading up. Here you'll see at the top it says crown appears in 10 seconds. So basically you have a crown that spawns in the wall. If a player grabs the crown and manages to hold onto it for 45 seconds, he will win that game through what we call crown victory. The only downside to that is once you've picked up the crown, everyone can see where you are and everyone's going to chase you.
So yeah, he's got the crown, the countdown is on. As soon as, if he were to get eliminated, it would drop and that countdown would go away, right?
Yes, and then whoever picks it up next, that person, the countdown will start again for them.
And that's only one of the 2 ways you can win a match of Hyperscape, right?
Yeah, you can win via the crown if you want to take it and maneuver. This is why you'll see the really high up to own the higher space. Or you can eliminate all the other teams.
You could sneak around and grab that crown and survive.
If you use your hacks well and you use your movement and hide a lot, then yeah, you could possibly grab the crown, get to the end, and then win via a crown victory.
Wow. There it is. A screen I'll never see. All right, well, that was just one match of the frenetic, fast-paced game, Hyperscape, that we are both very lucky to work on. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for watching UB Forward in this post-show. As we mentioned before, the game's available right now in open beta on PC. Just go to Uplay to download it. And we're also thrilled to be taking part in the Twitch Rivals event, with the information appearing magically on the screen below us. So Graham, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Eric. Have a good day.
And we'll see you in the Hyperscape.